Today I'm going to show you how I paint white fur using watercolours. Let's get the brushes wet and let's get started. Now painting white fur can be a little bit tricky because you think, well, how do you paint white? Yes, of course we can use white paints, which I do use, but you need to think about what's behind the scenes. So let me give you some examples from my tablet here, 1 second. When you actually look at the fur, yes, it looks white. But what's behind the fur? What can we see behind the scenes? Let's look past that fur. And what I mean by that, you get a very large photograph like this one. I can really zoom into this. And this is all from Pixabay. I've got some other ones as well I'm going to show you. Zoom into, I'm going to go to this right hand side here. Look at the colours we can see in there. And there's a variety of colours in there already. So we've got sort of umber colours, brown colours, a little bit of ochre sort of mix as well in there, but very weak as well. Whereas when you look elsewhere, like around the eye, and you look at all the hairs around the eye, you can actually see the dark colour behind. Yes, it's not black. Sort of a mixture of Payne's grey, alizarin crimson, maybe a little bit of mauve, something like that in there, to kind of make that sort of colour. So that's what you need to look at behind the scenes. So that's just one example, okay? The next one, I don't look at that one, so cute. Look at the right hand side of the mouth there. Look at the colours we can see behind the scenes. And you can see a lot of browns in there, a lot of umber colours once again. Okay. However, when you go over to the right hand side, there, that's it, that's got it. When you go over to the right hand side, trying to shine my light on this, they can see actually below the eye, that's more of a blue hint, isn't it? Because that's actually going around the corner a little bit. So it's gone away from the focus of the camera slightly, which means it's not quite as close to you. And when things go further away, you want to add a little bit of blue to them because blue is more of a receding colour. And by having blue, something like that, will start to give you a little bit more form and shape within that painting. So you've got to look at the colours, as I say, behind that fur by zooming into that reference photograph. This one is a prime example about the blue. You can see the blue within the forehead there, all the way from this section up, and the way that tends to kind of glow within the blue. However, when you look down on this side, and obviously the other side of the jawline as well, this is like a yellow, isn't it? It really is. It's not yellow, I know, but it's more of a sort of raw umber mixed with maybe a little bit of raw sienna, something like that in there. But when you go back towards the forehead, look at the blues in there as well. So that might be something like just a hint of phthalo blue mixed with maybe a little bit of indigo. But behind that as well, we've got other colours as well. So really zoom in. Just make sure that you've got a very large reference photograph. We'll go back to that one there, and I think I'll probably have a go at painting the fur around here because we've got a little bit of colour in there. Just this section here, I'm going to show you how to do that and kind of give you some ideas on how to build up those details and make it look a little bit more realistic. Right, let's grab a couple of brushes, and these two, just out of interest, this is a Rosemary & Co. Series 301 size 4. And this particular one is a size 00 Winsor Newton Cotsman Series 111. And that's one of my favourite brushes, and I use that for the majority of my detail work. First thing we need is a little bit of colour. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get a little bit of brown. So what should we go for? Let's go for raw umber first of all. Dropped a little bit of water in there by mistake, but we'll make use of that. So raw umber, looking behind the scenes, remember, that's what we're doing. This is burnt umber, by the way. Just going to go for a little bit of burnt sienna as well. These are all watery mixes at the moment. A bit more. Well then, let's be generous. Stop being a Scrooge with your paint, Paul. I know. First thing we want to do, get some clean water. I'm going to wet the paper. Okay? I'm going to wet it again. We'll allow that to soak into the paper just for 10-20 seconds, something like that. Oh, by the way, this particular paper is Bockingford 140 pound cold press. Okay, that's soaked in quite nicely. We'll start off with a raw umber. I'm going to drop this in around here first of all. Now, if it goes on too thick, what you can do, just lightly spread it out like so. Okay, just lightly spread it out. Now, this will dry that a little bit lighter as well. Always does with watercolours, isn't it? So it depends how much water is on the paper, depends how much pigment you got within your paints, and so on and so on. A touch of burnt umber, a bit more than that, Paul. Go on, be generous. Well, hey, that'll do. So like just to vary the colour a little bit. And then just a touch of the burnt sienna, because that's really, really rich in there, isn't it? And then what you can do, clean damp brush, not soaking wet though, very lightly just mingle them together a little bit, just blur them together so it all varies within this little wet patch. Okay, something like that. And there you go. So that's one little patch painted, ready to receive the details over the top. However, when you look at that area around there, this is say towards the corner of the mouth here, okay? So if I pull off a little bit of paint around there a minute with a semi-dry brush, imagine that being the corner of that mouth. Now, the inside corner of the mouth is more of a, well, more of a grey, isn't it? So let's get a little bit of Payne's grey. Get some water in there as well. Put a little bit more water. Let's be generous with the water today. I can pop a little bit of this in, just around the area there. If it's too blue, baby, I love you. If it's too blue, then what you can do is add a little bit of burnt umber or raw umber over the top, something like that, just to kind of vary that colour slightly. And we know it sort of kind of changes around there as well. This is where you can play with the colours, you really can. That's what you need to do behind the scenes. It's what you need to do before you even start thinking about adding any detail over the top. And all I'm doing here is mixing the colours around, a little bit of burnt sienna within the Payne's grey, just to dull that burnt sienna down. I can use that for the right hand side where we've got those little curly hairs around there as well. Just make use of it. Play with the colours that you've got mixed up. And you know, if you put too much colour on, don't worry, we can always take colour off. But don't go too thick with all the colours we're putting on here for the foundation wash. Okay, quick dry. Now then, nice and dry, just sketching the basic shape where the mouth goes. It's around that area anyway. Now we've got the Payne's grey, everything's still watery at the moment. Let's just steal some burnt umber and pop that into the Payne's grey. And what I'm thinking about, this is very watery still by the way, are the basic details to begin with, just a very watery detailed layer. So what we've got to do, just look at the direction that the fur grows. So we need to do that, look. And using a very light hand, not overloading that brush, so I'm doing look, loading the brush like that, giving a roll as a pull away like so, grab some kitchen roll, give it a tap or two. Start to work around the image. So this is very watery, remember, we're not after really deep detail yet. We're not after contrasts, basically. So this is where the mouth goes around there, okay? Just lightly sort of sketch it in, so know where it is. Look at the length of the lines as well, because the lines are not always, well, that long. Some are really long, some are shorter. And you've got to work out where things tend to change direction. So for example here, sort of sweeps around the top of the mouth into this bit of a bump here, which it will be. Trust me on that. And then that will start aiming towards, more towards like a 9 o'clock direction. And I'm going to overlap these lines bit by bit as well. Okay, then I'm going to work my way down towards this side as well. I will change my colour a little bit when I come around this side here. I just want to get this sort of a kind of bluey grey colour in first of all. Just for this first layer of detail. And then around here, see if you overload your brush, you'll find that the details are too thick. Your lines are too wide. So, what you need to do, take most of that paint off as I said, just so you're using the very tip of the brush like I'm doing here. Look how fine they can be just by using that tip. That's going to go all the way to there. And they're going to get smaller here as well. Start to kind of hook up like little tiny curves like so, but very short. Around here. But when you come down this side, sort of sweeps down there, and they do around here as well. These are basic reference marks, what we're trying to get in place first of all. By having those reference marks in, could help you kind of guide you along when you're adding the other details over the top. Because one thing when you're painting lots of fur, you get carried away and time flies, sometimes you forget to look at the direction that the fur grows, and it's all about keep looking at that reference photograph. And the more that you look at the photo, the more you will see. Now, if you do like what I'm doing so far, please click on that subscribe button down below, because when I put another video on here for you to watch, YouTube will let you know that it's there so that you shouldn't miss it. Now we've got our basic reference marks in, so we know where things are going to go. Look at that lot. I know, what a mess. So now what I'm doing is going through the process of starting to apply the main first layer of detail. Looking at the shapes all the time, overlapping the lines as well. Think of elongated lines like this lot. Bit more painful, it would help. Bit elongated lines like this, but what you're doing is slightly overlapping those lines instead of being parallel one another, because if they're really parallel like that, you find they will not stand out. So you've got to overlap them like so. It can also look a little bit too combed as well. We don't want that. Not really, no. But let's just get this layer on, follow my guide marks as I do so, and changing the colour according to the area we need to work in. So this area here is a little bit more bluer, so I need a little bit more Payne's grey. So just got on my palette there, probably into there a lot. Bit of burnt umber. There you go, that's better a lot. Then I can use that one to start adding in some of the other lines further up, all the way to the bottom of the eye, changing those colours all the time. That's all I've done. Okay, I'll just speed this on a little bit for you. Right, okay, back to your size 4 brush, or larger one if you wish. I'm going to soften down these details a little bit now, just by using a damp, clean brush, not soaking wet. You don't want to blur these details together, you really don't. Just want to knock them back a little bit. That's all I like to do, and I'm going to give this a dry, then add the top layer of detail over the top. Now what I'm going to do is thicken my colours down a little bit more now. I want these more to a milky consistency, so it's slightly thicker than water. A little bit more Payne's grey in there. Now then. I'm going to go, first of all, let's go, I'm not bothered with the raw umber, so I don't think we need any more of that. Go for a little bit of burnt umber, go for a little bit more of the burnt sienna. Let's go for all 3 of them, shall we? Just out of interest, really. So it's just on camera down there for you. Just because I like to play with colours as I go along. And using the lightest of touches, so 2 hairs and air. That's it. That's all you want. So hardly anything whatsoever. Look at the shapes, look at the gaps that we've got between where the mouth is round here and the skin and the fur, which obviously bulges up around the area as well, just around that section. So a little bit of this, not too much, we don't want to warm it too much. Okay, a little bit more around there, slightly more there. And I might add a little bit of the burnt sienna and maybe a little bit of a alizarin crimson in there as well. Ooh, look at that. Ooh, that's a warm colour. Just darken it a little bit. That's a big mixture of colours in there now, isn't it? Just got a little bit of this around this side now, just to warm this side up. This is where we've got those long hairs there, isn't it? Well, they're all fairly long around this section there. So back to our dark colour again. And this is where you can start adding the darkest layer in there. Now around the mouth here, you can just see there's quite dark in places, isn't it? We need to think about shape already at this stage. And then all the way down the side of the mouth here as well. But it's quite dark inside there, isn't it? Okay, that's that area there. Then every now and then, just a little hint of dark around here as well. You can see we've already got a shape forming here, haven't we? Just by doing that. They can kind of flick around different areas while you're doing this now. And think, okay, well, it's quite light there, isn't it? Yeah. Real light's there. So I'm just going to just add a little bit of a hint of lines here. Now this brush is just about dry. And usually when it's nearly dry, carry on with it. Don't stop. Because with a dry brush, you can really get some very, very fine lines and tiny marks. So when you've virtually got no paint left on there, you can't do anything else. You've got to reload. So this has gone dry again. So this enables me now to get some very fine marks on there. Look, you can barely see them, I know. But that really works. Reload again then. Give it a tap. We can do the same around here now. So slightly darker around the bottom of the eye here. I think the eye probably needs to go slightly higher, I was just saying that. I'm not too worried, it's not a painting as such, is it? No. And I'll just complete this area and I'll show you how to add watercolour white. Oh. Now then, watercolour white, here we go. This is where it's going to all completely change. At the moment, there's just lots and lots of colours on there, isn't it? But watercolour white is really useful for really bringing out those highlights, and there's different ways you can use white paint as well. I wouldn't normally mix the colour with it, or not within the mixing well itself, but sometimes I would add colour to it or over the top of it once it's dried onto the surface. And also you can water this down as well. So instead of using it really creamy like this, you've got to make sure it's an opaque white, by the way, that you're using, not semi-opaque or semi-transparent or anything like that. Then once you've got nice and creamy, you can go for the really bright areas. But the beauty about watercolour white as well is that if you add a little bit more water, it will dry that a little bit lighter or paler, so it's not quite as bright. So let's just give this a try around. Let's go around here first of all. Using the same technique, so I'm doing barely touching the paper again. I'm going to add the white paint over the top of the details we just put on there. To use the same idea by overlapping those lines where needed. These are fairly sort of together around here, aren't they? So barely touching the paper, flicking around over the top of the mouth, allowing those darker colours to show through. That's all I'm doing now though. Now notice how low down I hold my brush load, just near the ferrule, isn't it? Quite close. That way I've got much more control over this watercolour white, especially when it's a creamy consistency as well like this. You've got to be very light with it as well when you're actually pressing on the paper, so as I say, barely touching it. You will need to keep reloading that brush. And another little tip as well, when you're using watercolour white, what you do need to do is keep washing that brush out. Because if you don't, it can start to clog up inside that brush or inside the metal ferrule here. A little bit more water in there. I want it to flow slightly more than that because it's not quite flowing really. Problem is, the more water you add, the duller it will look. It won't dry quite as bright. But you know, there are areas around a dog or cat or whatever animal you're painting that's white that don't look white, even though they are. For example, a shadow underneath the chin. There's a good one for you. You know, and you think, well, hang on, that is white fur, Paul. Yeah, I know, but it's in the shadow. So how do you paint a shadowed white? Use the same idea for the background. But then what you do is dilute the white down a little bit. Give it a try. If it's still too bright, dilute it that little bit more. Now, because my board's on a slight angle here, I can allow for my water to be down here, look. It's got a bubble of water just in there, you can just about see it moving around. And my paint at the top, which means I can drag the water up to that paint. So I can get the paint to whatever consistency I want it to be. Another little tip as well, when you start working those kind of darker recesses, especially around the top of the mouth as well, where it's slightly darker in there, just need to lessen those details just a little bit. And by doing so, that area will look a little bit darker just in that one section, as long as you allow them details to show through as well, of course. So now you can see the way that this is gradually building up, isn't it? But you can still see all the details behind the scenes. Now, when you're working with watercolour white, you've got to think, well, less is best in most cases, I know. Be it watercolour white or white gouache, whichever one you want to use, each one will work quite well for this. But you do have to consider how much you put on. Because if you do put too much on, then you think, well, how am I going to kind of get that back? So I'm going to overdo it here for you just a little bit. There's also a way you're thinking about the structure a little bit more. So I've got these two kind of raised areas, I've got a slightly raised area around there. This also shows the kind of undulating contours that we can see around the side of the face here. But you can actually work that out from the direction of the lines we put on there, because we've actually taken time to work out the direction the fur needs to go, just by studying that reference photograph, as you know. Oh no, put too much white paint on. Oh no, what am I going to do? I'll show you. I will show you what to do with that. Now, here we go. What you need to do, get some colour again, and then you'll start adding a little bit of detail over the top of the now dry watercolour white. And you can do this, you can paint over the top. It will dullen that colour down a little bit, I've noticed, but it does work really well. Just a touch of colour like that. And that's sort of repaired the area already. So where I've added too much white paint in, I've actually pulled it back. Because when you overlay white paint, then you need to do it in one fell swoop. So if I get this colour again, I'm going to water it down a little bit more. Tap a little bit off. If you go over the white paint more than once, you'll start to disturb that white paint. So using a very, very light touch, flick the colour over the top. Then that will tone that white paint down. So let's say, for example, this area here is a little bit too rich. Let's water this colour down now a little bit, which we know is majority of it is just burnt umber and Payne's grey, but nice and watery. And a little bit of a colour over the top of this now, just by going over the lines just once for each line like that. Let it dry. If you want to add some more over the top, again, let it dry, and then you can add a little bit more colour over the top, or even more white as well. So it's a good way of sort of building up details by adding colour over the top of the watercolour white. Now I do have a playlist on here for painting fur. Okay, I'll put a little link to the top right hand corner for you so you can have a nose at that. Just going to give you some other ideas on how to paint not just white fur, but black fur and other colours as well. Hope you enjoy those. I know I enjoyed putting them together for you. Now what colour fur do you find difficult to paint? Let me know in the comments down below.